All right, let's dive right in. I want to show you something really fascinating today. It's a book from the 1930s, and it's simply titled Ayahuasca. Now, don't let that simple cover fool you, because inside is a world of incredibly complex, powerful, and sometimes pretty terrifying stories from the absolute heart of the Amazon. Now, right off the bat, let's be super clear. This explainer isn't really about the famous psychedelic brew itself. Instead, we're going to use this book almost like a time capsule, a portal that lets us peek into the worldview of the Amazonian people nearly a century ago, all through their own myths and legends. This is about the world that ayahuasca comes from, a world that the brew itself is said to reveal. So first up, let's take a closer look at the book itself. We're going to open this time capsule and see exactly what secrets of the jungle are hidden inside these pages. I mean, just look at this thing. The physical object tells the story all on its own. You can see these pages, yellowed and weathered with age. Some of them are almost totally blank, while others are just crammed with these dense, vivid legends. You get this feeling that it's ancient, because you know it holds stories that are even older, passed down for who knows how many generations. Right at the very beginning, the book gives us its own definition of ayahuasca, and it's pretty intense. It says it's a bebida más fuerte que el opio y la morfina, que hace soñar y da clarividencia. In English, that's a drink stronger than opium and morphine, which causes dreams and clairvoyance. I mean, wow. That really sets the stage perfectly for the world we're about to step into, one where dreams and visions and everyday reality are all completely tangled together. All right, let's get to our first big story. This one is a huge, grand creation myth that literally stretches from the jungle floor all the way up into the stars. So the heroes of this myth are 7 orphaned brothers. And get this. They were born from a forbidden love affair between the sun and the moon. They're left to wander the earth, and their one great mission, their one desire, is to find their father. And as it turns out, the youngest brother, who is gifted with some pretty incredible supernatural powers, he might just be the one to make it happen. But here's the problem, right? This is their central dilemma. They look up at the sky and ask, "Pero, ¿cómo llegaremos hasta él? Está tan lejos." Which just means, but how will we get to him? He is so far away. And you can feel their frustration. I mean, it seems completely impossible. How does a person even begin to reach the sun? Well, this is where the youngest brother's magic just completely changes the game. His solution is just amazing. He tells his brothers to shoot an arrow straight up into the sky, and then to shoot another arrow right into the back of that one, and then another, and to keep going until they've built this enormous, unbelievable ladder made of arrows stretching all the way up into the heavens. And so they start to climb. The book puts it beautifully. It says they climb and climb for a long time until they reach a dizzying height. Can you just picture that? Climbing this chain of arrows, higher and higher and higher, leaving the entire world far, far below you. But just as they're about to make it, of course, tragedy strikes. They're crossing this great lake up in the sky, riding on the backs of lizards, when one of the creatures just betrays them. It bites the youngest brother, our hero, and he loses his leg. So when they finally meet their father, the sun, he sees how heartbroken they are over their injured brother. And in this incredible act of compassion, he decides to immortalize them. He transforms all 7 brothers into a group of 7 beautiful, shining stars. And this, of course, is the origin story for the constellation we know as the Pleiades, which the legend calls Las Siete Cabritas, or the 7 little goats. Okay, so we've been way up in the heavens. Let's come all the way back down to the jungle floor now for a much, much darker story. This is a cautionary tale, a legend that teaches you about the spirits that live right there on the earth with you. This story is all about something called La Shakua. Now, it's really important you understand this isn't just a bird. The book calls it a Yushin, which is basically a demon spirit. Its cry is a powerful omen of pure evil, and when the people of the jungle hear it, they are filled with this deep, gut-wrenching dread. They know something absolutely terrible is about to happen. So the legend starts out simply enough. You've got 2 young boys living happily with their mother in a little house by the river. They're helping her out, gathering food and firewood. But one afternoon, as they're heading home, the air is just shattered by that awful, ominous cry of the chiquea. When they get to their house, she's gone. They start calling out for her, and a voice that sounds just like hers answers back. But it's weird. It seems to be coming from all directions at once. From the river, from the forest, from everywhere. and they are just deeply, deeply unsettled. Where could she be? The boys sit by the fire, just waiting. Finally, they decide to serve the food their mother had been cooking. And that's when they make the most horrifying discovery imaginable. The text says, Entre la comida vaciada en la hoja de plátano estaba el cuerpo en pedazos de la anciana madre. Among the food they emptied onto the banana leaf was the body of their old mother in pieces. And that mysterious voice they heard, the one that answered from all directions? The legend offers up the most terrifying detail of all. It was her viscera, her insides still alive and speaking from inside the cooking pot. In their grief and absolute rage, the two boys are suddenly possessed by this enormous elemental power. One of them becomes a hurricane, and the other becomes a bolt of lightning. And together they descend on the camp of the men who murdered their mother and just completely annihilate it. A terrible, total, and supernatural act of vengeance. So, wow, we have one story about creating stars and another about a demon spirit in the jungle. What do these stories actually tell us? Why are they so important that they endure for generations? Well, it's because they are so much more than just campfire stories. They're really the cultural DNA of a people. They explain where the stars came from. They teach you which spirits you should fear and which you should respect. They encode an entire moral universe of justice and vengeance. They are, in short, a map for how to live and survive in a world that is literally alive with spiritual power. In the book's introduction, the author writes this sort of love letter to the jungle, and he says, Quien te conoce no te olvida jamás. He who knows you never forgets you. And that line just perfectly captures the power of this world and its stories. Once you've really encountered it, it stays with you forever. And that really just leaves us with one last thing to think about. These myths and legends, they provided a complete blueprint for understanding the Amazonian world, from the tiniest bird's cry to the vastness of the night sky. So it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the myths, the stories, old or new, big or small, that explain your world?